And this is not a good match for the descriptions of the film site as the starting location for seeing the creature. This isn't a root ball. On some of the site diagrams, it's also called a fallen tree. What we've got are two big stumps left over from logging and debris that's caught in there.
What about that one down there?
I guess, but that's almost 100 feet away. That's the entire trackway away. Then this is the end of the trackway.
Well, the trackway is some 300 feet. Film.
I guess, yeah, to the... is it that far to where she goes into the trees?
Well, it's about 400 feet from the first sighting to the end in that titmus diagram. So theoretically, based on what Munz is saying, the sighting could have been right down near that root ball that's overturned, and Patterson could have run up the creek and crossed through here somewhere.
I don't see that in this. In the site maps or in Munz reconstruction, it doesn't have them going quite that far. And now we've got a strange... Now we have to account for a creek flowing a lot differently than in the old site diagrams.
Well, here's, if you can film that even. This is the mark, the X or the arrow, right at that bump, and here's the bowling alley. Right there.
Go ahead.
And so we have the little round sandbar moving essentially eastward if we go upstream. And then it juts north. That's the bowling alley. So that would be this spot right here, wouldn't it? I can't see that. There's only that one bend, and then it goes down, and then it bends that way towards the big gulch. There's that rounded sandbar right there that we just passed. And then there's the feeder creek, the Murphy site, the gulch there.
I'd say let's go across here and go take a look at this gravel burrow. Directly behind you, Steven.
Well, do you agree? Does that look like where we are right now?
Yeah, that's kind of looks where we are right now.
I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we're down there somewhere.
We're down below the point, which is right behind us here. We're just downstream a bit, a little ways.
Well, there's a way to figure that out as you go back upstream and follow the contour and take a look at that again. Which is just over behind you.
But, I mean, the arrows on the upper side of the creek pointing at that right there is what I think.
Well, let's go look.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think we can really tell. I mean, from an arrow drawn onto a picture or even onto a map by hand years ago.
Yes, but what else could it be but if we're looking at this spot right here?
Well, it's just these little meanderings of the creek don't necessarily show up on the topo map.
Before the bowling alley, we only have this brief little curve here, and then that juts up. So that's what's ahead of us, is that brief little curve. If you want to get, maybe the X was here back in the day, and it's washed away. But you can still see like the piles of gravel, like in the Munz recreation. You can see the pile of gravel on the bank going up, so that here you can't see the creek. But like Patterson starts filming, and you see a glimpse of the creek, like right here. So, I mean, it could be here, it could be there, but Patterson runs over a bank, and that actually does kind of look like what you see in the Munz. And then he crosses the creek.
Yeah, but look at the far bank.
It's rather high.
It's incredibly high. It's 8 to 10 feet or more in places. And that's not anywhere in the film. Well, and that hasn't changed radically in 43 years.
That hasn't changed, but where we are standing has changed.
Maybe.
That's what Gimlin said recently.
Let's go upstream and take a look at that.
Okay.
Find the place where the bowling alley reconnects, and that'll give a better orientation.
Yeah. What Bob said recently was that it was about 3 feet high, And now I think if you're standing on that level, it's more like 6 or 7 feet high, right?
Well, the film sure looks like it's more than 3 feet
Yeah.
in those first frames. Looks like it could be 5 or 6 feet.
Well, one way to do that is to film yourself climbing up 3 feet and see if the angles are about the same. I think that little change in elevation ends up being appearing to be a lot.
There's a subjective memory too. I mean, Bob says 3, it may have been 4, in that ballpark.
I just think it's interesting that the consensus of the TV shows keeps going further upstream because they've done all the surveying and done all the filming downstream and haven't been able to produce any compelling video from it. So now they're coming further upstream.
Well,
Pretty soon we'll be up at Scorpion Creek.
And then somebody will be right.
there's some great film sites up in there.
Exactly, there's some great film sites downstream, and they're a whole lot closer to where Bob and Roger camped.
Yeah.
I just don't see how you can fit the film site into this area.
How come?
If the suggestion is that that bank up there is the trackway, the soil looks completely wrong. She wasn't walking on that kind of soil. She was walking on sand and gravel. And the height, there's just no evidence that that has eroded over the past 43 years.
You don't think over the last 43 years forest could have created a soil cover like that? To cover up the gravel?
I don't.
Look at it.
We have looked up. We've been up there. We've taken soil samples up there. But are you saying that 5 feet of topsoil has been added in 43 years? And Roger ran across the gravel bar like this and up to there to film. And Patty disappeared to the north into the trees. That part's as plausible as anything else. But I would have to have some kind of a geologist present some evidence, because I'll stand over there. The height difference is 8 feet, perhaps.
So I'll go.
That's an incredible amount of soil, either to be deposited on top or to have been eroded out of the bottom.
Well, I think that's the level of the general level of the 64 flood. This has just gotten eaten away.
Yeah, I can buy into
Bob
that.
said, these rocks weren't here. This is
underground. It was covered. Yeah. The original channel that's buried in 64, and then nature's getting back to where the gravel base
could have been
is.
up this high, with the creek running through here, not down quite so far.
Yeah, it's going to eat it all up.
Of course, the simplest explanation for why the rocks weren't here is this is not the site he was at in 1967. And once again, some evidence of 5 or more feet of sand and silt and soil disappearing without any trace needs to be explained.
So, Steven, what are you saying over there?
Well, this is right above the mark in Daniel Perez's map.
The mark above Daniel Perez's map. You'll have to speak up.
Where Gimlin identifies a sighting right downstream.
Yeah.
And this is basically the creek level where I am. That's how high the bank is.
I can see that.
I'm about 6 feet tall, so how high would you say that is right there from your perspective?
Well, it looks like it's about a couple feet taller than you are.
7 or so,
Maybe.
maybe? The creature would have retreated through here is what I'm assuming Gimlin means. Walk through here. Patterson would have run up in here somewhere.
Okay. Well, I think we should get up to the flat area and look at a couple things, like those stumps for starters. And
Go upstream first?
yeah, and then hook back down around the bottom here and have a different look at it.
Oh, but it is sand.
Well, the river's eroding that whole hillside. You can look at the roots being exposed. So this, who knows how long ago that was eroded back. And over there. He just wants to get his shoes wet.
So, here, did you film me taking that sample?
I think I did.
Here's from the top level. That is just below the forest debris right on the top. This is a couple inches down, and it's sand. Rather fine too. So it's not really a soil. I mean, I could see that being the surface that we see the creature walking on in the film. It makes sense to me.